Hey everybody, I'm Tim and today we're taking a look at the new face of Connecticut cigars. You're watching Cigars Daily. Hey, get a lot more out of this video when you join the community on Cigars Daily Plus and when you watch it on Rumble. If you go to the regular lay person out there and say Connecticut, they're gonna picture a state in the United States, one that's filled with history and one that's got many beautiful trees. There's leaves turn color in the fall and it's just a wonderful place and it's all kinds of good. But if you say to a cigar smoker, Connecticut, something differently entirely pops into mind. It's a cigar with a light colored shade wrapper. And as I say time and time again, the cigar is sort of the color of coffee with cream in it. Unlike a lot of sun-grown or Maduro cigars that you see in the market these days, the Connecticut Shade cigars are distinctive in their light colored wrapper leaves. And these days, they also were heralded as the go-to beginner cigar. If you ask 99 out of 100 different aficionados, what's the best cigar for someone to start out with? They're gonna say, oh, a Connecticut Shade. And this has to do with the very mild-mannered nature of Connecticut cigars. These cigars are the ones that hit typically between a 1 and a 3 or 4 out of 10 on the strength scale. They're not known for being overwhelmingly powerful, and while there are some cigars that are not on the milder end of things, there are some that pack a bit of a punch. For the most part, the Connecticut Shade cigar is it's the lamb. It's not really the lion in the cigar world. And these days, in the cigar making arena, there is this whole push to craft new Connecticut Shade projects. And today, that's what I want to take you into. The Connecticut cigar. In our world, it is the coffee with cream in it cigar. They are the wheat beer of cigars. They're the M&M of the cigar world. They're distinguishedly lighter in color. And so today we're going to dive in and take a look at some of these new projects. And if you've been an aficionado for any period of time, you'll be aware, I think, of a lot of the standard traditional Connecticut Shade blends out there. These are ones like Perdomo's Champagne, a cigar that is, I gotta say, one of the most famous Connecticut's ever made. Also, the Monte Cristo White Series, a certainly higher end cigar that is, again, fan acclaimed for its very mild, very sort of mellow flavor profile. These two cigars, the Perdomo Champagne and the Monte Cristo White, account for many, many cigar lovers' very first cigar that they've ever had. And now today, cigar makers are working on new projects to bring to the world to provide a new experience for the incoming cigar smoker or people who like to pair cigars with coffee, or hell, even if you just like Connecticut cigars. You know, I remember a time when I first got into the cigar industry, there was a period of I want to say it was just the first 15 years I was into cigars. I really only liked Connecticut Shade blends. And then I sort of branched back out. But even today, with a cup of coffee, to me, there's just nothing more appealing than a Connecticut Shade. Now, with this initiative to craft new Connecticut projects, there are some things that are remarkably different than the traditional Connecticut's of the past. You see, cigar makers are working on doing a few things that aficionados, I think, really want these days. One of those things is being very specific about mentioning sourcing for the blend. Well, in the past, a lot of blends, really throughout the cigar world, might have just listed one country, like Dominican Republic or Nicaragua. These days, a lot of cigar brands are taking the time to break down wrapper, binder, and filler, not just to tell you what country the tobacco comes from, but also what growing region or even priming on the plant or seed is used to craft this blend. It gives you an insight into what the blending mind looks like. The other thing that a lot of cigar makers are doing is taking these ingredients and working to craft more interesting Connecticut's. It's one of the long-standing complaints about Connecticut cigars for at least the last couple of decades. A lot of cigar aficionados have said that Connecticuts at large seem to fall kind of flat in terms of flavor experience. And so cigar makers are working to craft these new, intricate, interesting, complex, and exciting experiences. And so as we walk through this, I'll show you sort of what each of these blends does to meet one of these criteria and how cigar makers are innovating today. And so with no further ado, let's jump right in. And of course, I say no further ado, but I will ask you to comment down below. Is there a Connecticut Shade cigar that in your mind tops all the rest? It's got like the most complexity, the most interesting like experience. Put that down in the comments below. I would love to hear more about it from you. I will tell you very briefly about one of mine. Gosh, this is just a lot of ado. But when I first got into the cigar industry, one cigar I was really nervous about trying was the Rose of Sharon from Southern Draw. It had a pink band on it, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I want a pink band. But so many people rated this cigar extremely highly. I'm talking about 99 and 100 out of 100 ratings. So one night I lit one up I was with my family. We were at a drive-in movie, and I lit one up, like sitting outside the back of my wife's minivan, and we're watching Transformers or something like that. And the cigar experience blew me away. Like, it just absolutely took me off my feet. What a complex cigar. But also, in the midst of like my family and a movie that I knew my kids really wanted to see, I was excited with them and we had a great time together. It added all that much more to the experience. So drop yours down below. What's the Connecticut cigar that I swooped you off your feet? Now, I ain't gonna lie, I think some of the cigars on this list might be a little bit controversial for cigar aficionados, and I don't really know why. They're just cigars. They didn't do anything to you, but here we are talking about them. The first one is actually one of the most recent releases in the cigar industry, and that is Drew Estate's brand new Nica Rustica Connecticut Shade. This cigar dropped just a few days ago, and it has been added to the Nica Rustica line in Drew Estate's catalog, which is much more of an economy-based line. Unlike a lot of cigars these days where the price really seems to be inching up there, Nica Rustica was created to be like a more affordable daily guys type of smoke. And the Nica Rustica Shade is a cigar that adds to this line with a sort of interesting blend. Like pretty much all of the cigars I'm going to talk about in this video, the Connecticut wrapper leaf on the outside does not come from the Connecticut River Valley, which is where Connecticut Shades get their name. Instead, it's from Ecuador. Today in the cigar industry, we grow most of our Connecticut seed in Ecuador. And that's because you don't have to grow it in the shade, or at least you don't have to put shade up over the crops because there's so much cloud cover in Ecuador. Drew Estate, for the Nica Rustica Shade, chose that Ecuador Connecticut wrapper. Underneath that, they put something I've seen sort of often, a Mexican binder underneath. Inside, fillers come from Nicaragua, the Dominican Republic, and the United States. So here you've got a 5-country blend in an economy-based cigar that creates a little bit more intrigue, a little bit more capacity for blending complexity into a flavor profile. And I always like to see when cigar makers do this, even with their more economic lines. It's a way of saying like, hey, we're looking out for everybody, not just the guys who want to shell around the big bucks. As a guy who, when I first got into cigars, $2 was like what I could do. It's what I was able to pay for a cigar. I always appreciate brands that seem to have this in mind. And with the Nica Rustica Shade, Drew Estate did exactly what they set out to do. And if there's one cigar on this list that I think might be, I don't know, a little controversial, it'll be this next one. It's the CAO Surplus, which CAO is just released. I gotta say, for a cigar that goes for, I don't know, about half the cost of a gallon of gas, and I'm not even joking, depending on how much gas is where you live. I mean, it's cheaper than the cup of coffee that I tried to buy at a gas station the other day. Cigars this affordable, I didn't even think they could exist anymore, especially as long filler blends. And from like all of the overwhelming research I've done on the CAO Surplus, they put these long filler blends out at a rate that I just can't even fathom. I didn't think it would be possible anymore, especially with the way everything's going in the world these days. And the CAO Surplus uses a Honduran Connecticut wrapper leaf. And this is the only one on the list that doesn't use that Ecuador Connecticut. You find, I think, in only a few cigars out these days, like Honduran Connecticut specifically, and I'm not sure why that is. In different countries, there are different reasons for this. Like in Nicaragua, they don't grow a ton of wrapper leaf. You grow a lot more binder and filler in Nicaragua, and I don't know why you would grow Connecticut and Honduras versus Ecuador, but for this cigar, seemed to make great sense. And on the inside, a Dominican Olor filler. All the way through, a 3-country blend that produces not like a super complex flavor profile, but a very consistent, very solid, mild, like I think true to form Connecticut shade flavor. If you go into the Connecticut region in cigars, there's like a range of flavor notes that are more or less, I think, expected by the aficionados out there. Some of those flavor notes are things like Spanish cedar, sort of maybe a general nuttiness, but sometimes more specifically almonds, a light sweetness, and sometimes a citrus sweetness to that flavor. Like all of these notes I'm mentioning are very sort of lighter notes. They're not like leather and coffee and chocolate and you licked the bottom of a dirty coffee cup. It's nothing like that. They're just lighter like notes and of course a nice natural sweetness with the wrapper. The CAO Surplus, honest to God, I don't know how they did it. We're going to see how the industry receives it, but I'm excited that they did. That one is like, it's not even like, I don't even want to call it economy. They're like, yeah, affordable. And the next one also steps outside of a traditional wheelhouse for a major cigar brand, and that is Alec Bradley's new Do Not Disturb. You see, Alec Bradley, for a very long time, has been a predominantly Honduran cigar company. Pretty much all of their cigars have been made in Honduras with very limited exceptions. It doesn't mean that they don't use a leaf from other countries. That's pretty common. But the new Alec Bradley Do Not Disturb does something that I haven't seen a ton of from Alec Bradley as a brand. The Do Not Disturb kicks off with, again, an Ecuador, Connecticut wrapper leaf. There's no surprises there. Underneath that, though, a Dominican Criollo binder. Okay, so Dominican is not the type of like leaf that I expect to see in a lot of Alec Bradley cigars, but even still, in the filler, they're using a Dominican Piloto Cubano along with a Mexican Ligero leaf to give it a little bit more punch. This is an example of the sourcing I was talking about. For a brand to come out and specifically say, hey, there's Mexican Ligero in here, lets you know that they're taking you out of, first of all, Alec Bradley's traditional sort of Honduran nature, and they're putting in a powerful Ligero leaf in the blend to give it a little bit more vibrance, not necessarily adding a ton of strength, but adding more complexity and flavor along with some of the other primings that they'll use in the filler and binder. And then I got a blend that is just it's a shocking departure from what's normal in the cigar world. Now, this is not a brand new blend. This one's been out for a few years, but I still I'm satisfied by this one. The brand is from Zino. It's called the Zino Nicaragua. Now, this is a Connecticut shade cigar that is like an outlier in every way because Zino is an ultra premium, high-end brand. I mean, they just make top-tier cigars. Pretty much all the Zino cigars are really expensive, but the Zino Nicaragua came out at like a daily smoke type of price. I mean, the cigar came out and was just, I don't know, a 25%, 30% of the price of a lot of the other Zino stuff out there. It certainly seemed to be a way for Zino to say, hey, we want to craft cigars from more different types of cigar lovers other than people who are just looking for the ultra top end stuff. And they didn't skimp on the ingredients for this cigar. You'd think that Zino comes down, they make it like a everyman cigar, and they're like, oh, here you go, one for all of you. But the truth is they put a lot of very interesting stuff in the blend. Kicking it off with, of course, an Ecuador Connecticut wrapper leaf, but underneath that, a Nicaraguan binder, followed by fillers, first of all, from Nicaragua, from the island of Ometepe. This is a very special leaf. I think not a lot of cigars out there these days have Nicaraguan leaf from the island of Ometepe. It's kind of hard to get a hold of, and it's certainly hard to base a cigar blend off having that leaf. The filler goes on to use leaf from Dominican Republic's San Vicente region and from the Jamastran and Olancho regions of Honduras. So once again, you're looking at a cigar that's got a 4-country blend where Zino is coming down to say, as this like a cigar maker, we want to be more accessible to the cigar loving world. And they created something that has certainly lasted at least the last few years. And even this year, more and more people seem to be latching onto. And as so many of these projects are about crafting something new, something intriguing and interesting, Casa Carrillo has jumped on the bandwagon as well. Ernesto Perez Carrillo has put out this entire series of what they call the Casa Carrillo Essence line. These are cigars that, unlike a lot of the more top-tier Casa Carrillo stuff, like the Pledge and the Encore, that have been top 25 cigars, Casa Carrillo has said, we want to craft also blends that are sort of for the everyday aficionado, people who love and collect their cigars and also like to light them up on a regular basis. The Essence line comes in a little bit more affordable, and one of the newest release at this point is the Casa Carrillo Essence Connecticut, a cigar that uses an Ecuador Connecticut wrapper. Underneath that, a Honduran Criollo 98 binder and fillers from the Dominican Republic and Honduras. I think that part of the key to a Casa Carrillo Connecticut is like not as much about the sourcing. It's not as much about the leaf. But the key to a blend from Casa Carrillo doesn't come as much from sourcing and mentioning varietals and making sure that you know sort of like which priming it is and which regions it's coming from. A lot of it has to do with the incredible blending expertise of Ernesto Perez Carrillo, who's got more than 50 years of experience doing this. He's not only lived through a lot of transitions in the cigar world, but historical events that have shaped the cigar world today. This is a dude who is in the Cigar Blending Hall of Fame, and to his own family's credit, he's raising up another generation of cigar makers right now. The exciting thing to me about Casa Carrillo cigars is that each new blend that comes out is part of that like historic heritage, knowledge, and wisdom of Ernesto, and him bringing along his kids like Ernesto III and a few of the other people in the family to teach them blending as well. There's a team at Casa Carrillo now who's learning from one of the best out there to continue crafting some of the best out there. And so there you have it. Some of the Connecticut shades that like just popped out. They just popped off. They're here now, and pray to God that they're here to stay for the aficionados who value them and look forward to them. There are so many different palettes out there these days that it can be tough to make, like I often say, there's no one cigar that's made for everyone, and no like one person that every cigar is going to work for them. That's part of the reason you see so many different blends out there today. So I'm going to ask you again to drop a comment. What is the Connecticut shade or even milder cigar that just knocked you right off your feet? It knocked your socks off. It swept you into a new world. You were, I don't think, living on cloud nine while you were enjoying the thing. Drop that in the comments below, and of course, get a hell of a lot more out of this video when you watch it on the community on Cigars Daily Plus and on Rumble. Thanks again so much for watching. This is Tim, signing off for Cigars Daily, and I will see you in the comments.